This content is for informational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. Nothing contained on here constitutes a solicitation, recommendation, endorsement, or offer by Draper, Goren, Holm, or any third-party service provider to buy or sell any securities or other financial instruments whatsoever. Cheers.
That is a mouthful.
I gotta run to the other room and grab my wine. Jordan, you've got to just show that drink to the people joining us now, real quick, because as the person who inspired the meme token, that pineapple drink is very fitting.
Yeah, you always got to have some pineapple juice in your rum, or vice versa, like that. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got some.
Oh,
nice.
Have you always had that, or did you go out and buy a bunch of pineapples this week?
Just for you, Alon. Just for you.
Nice.
We're waiting for Scott. He's grabbing his laptop really quick. Let's give it a couple more minutes. We'll let people in.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Are you in Switzerland or Finland? Where are you right now?
Yeah, actually, I'm in Spain.
Nice.
Drinking Spanish wine.
Nice. How long have you been there for?
I just arrived actually today.
Where in Spain
are you? Alicante. It's in the southern part of Spain.
Yep.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's very nice here. Yeah, I have a kind of like an unofficial holiday.
Nice.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah, I just got back from a 2-month Euro trip 2 days ago.
Oh, nice.
I was in Austria and Croatia. That was really wonderful. Almost really free. Totally different from here.
Almost. Give us just a second. I know Scott is logged in through his phone, but he's joining from the laptop to turn on his. Oh, here we go. Hold on.
Ooh, already a bunch of questions. I like it.
Oh, no. Very cool.
How can I make a shit ton of money in the next 24 hours using anything crypto? Upvote. Who doesn't want to know?
I know, right?
Yeah, I'm fan
It instantly got the 6 votes.
Amazing.
You think we're going to get someone from the SEC again? Or Satoshi?
I don't know.
We already we have Irish Yam Famine is in the chat. That's in poor taste.
I think, should we get started maybe with intros?
Yeah. Let's jump in. Adam, what do you want to do?
Let's start with Jordan. We'll work from Ed and Stani, and we'll give our little spiel, and hopefully by then Scott will be on. Perfect. Jordan, take the stage.
What's that?
Go ahead, take the stage. Introduce yourself.
All right, I'm on the stage. Hey guys, I'm Jordan Lyall. I'm in LA. I work for ConsenSys. I've been there just over a year or so. Before that, I was with Total. That's how I got to know Alon and Josef and team.
Area Total.
Woo! Yeah, at ConsenSys, I work at a team called Codify, working on a number of projects. Within DeFi, a number of teams. My team at the end of last year launched the DeFi score, which tries to assess risk across different lending protocols. I'm also helping out the team launching the Scale token. We're also working on a number of other data plays within DeFi, doing a lot of interesting things. And it wasn't until the meme token until Alon got me on here. So I think that might have something to do with it. We can save that topic for later if you want. But Yeah, happy
Well,
to be here.
we had you on the. We did have you on the DeFi summit.
I was on the DeFi summit. That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Thanks, Jordan. Meta, go ahead.
Yeah, Meta Parlikar. I'm the CTO of CasperLabs. I fell into the blockchain rabbit hole in 2017 around, the ICO boom and all the zaniness that went with that, and been building the CasperLabs protocol for about 2 years. And I manage the engineering team and I'm developing the product. And yeah, super excited to be here. I was on the DeFi summit as well. That was a lot of fun, and met Alon and the team at Draper, because they're investors in our protocol. So we're both excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Yes, full disclosure, yes. CasperLabs is a portfolio company of ours.
Yep.
And Total, Jordan's previous company, is a portfolio company of ours as well. Stani, what's up, dude?
Back here.
Aave is not a portfolio company of ours, but we love what they do, so we have Stani on.
Yeah, so I'm Stani. I'm the founder and CEO of Aave. Aave is a decentralized money market, so you basically deposit stable coins and other assets and earn interest. You deposit basically other assets as a collateral, borrow stable coins, and farm other kind of crap and non-crap in DeFi. So yeah, and we started 2 years ago with ETHLend, short for Ethereum lending, and basically that was the first lending protocol in Ethereum, and it basically evolved into what we're doing today. We have roughly 1 billion worth of value locked in the smart contracts, and things have been growing quite a lot for us and in the whole space. And we're living very interesting and also kind of like a dangerous times in DeFi. So very excited and scared at the same time.
Yeah, it is a insane time. So looks like both Josef and Adam ditched me, but that's okay, because the cool people are on screen. Yes, it has been a wild time. Oh, Joseph's back. Good.
I heard you.
We're before we jump in, actually, we should introduce ourselves. Josef and I are the founders of Draper, Goren, Holm. We invest in early stage blockchain companies, as mentioned earlier. We're investors in Total, we're investors in CasperLabs, and a bunch of others in the space. Adam wanted me to mention this recording will be available on Blockchain Radio and on our YouTube channel, so make sure to check it out in both of those places. But yeah, so as Draper, Goren, Holm, we like to be early stage investors. We try to be the first investor in companies in the space. So we're excited to learn alongside the rest of the community in these sessions when we have these super smart people join in. It's sort of the luxury of being an investor. You get to meet people way smarter than you and back them. So we gotta start with the crazy stuff that happened this week with DeFi and all that stuff. And Jordan, do you want to recap the story a little bit of the meme token and all that? I know that's not like your day-to-day job of what you do, but your Twitter joke got super out of hand, and now is its own token. Were you a part of creating that token at all?
I was in
other than inspiring it.
Let's start from the top.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, with what you guys have seen across DeFi just the last few days, right? Last week was Curve launched their token, and it was DeFi Chat or whoever that launched the contract. Some people think it was just so that they can have plausible deniability that they didn't launch this thing. But somebody other than the Curve team launched the Curve DAO contract, everything exactly how it was supposed to launch. Anyways, so that's kind of the joke, right? And then the YAM token, and I really like the ideas. I really like the team that built the YAM. Obviously, as we know, if you're following the space, there were some issues, some some bugs or whatever that kind of brought the whole thing down. You can still stake it. It still technically works, but it doesn't function as they intended it. And then you see the based token, right? And now every emoji or every fruit and vegetable is starting to spin up. And I just thought it was funny, especially, my day job is at ConsenSys, and I spend a lot of time thinking about DeFi risk, right? We built a DeFi score. We're looking, that's kind of been my brand in a way the last year or so. I travel around talking to people. I've been on panels before, Stani, talking about DeFi risk. And it was a joke. It was only a joke. I posted on Twitter just this mock-up, quick idea that I had. What if there was like a WordPress for DeFi protocols? What if it, in just a couple of clicks, because they're all borrowing from the same smart contract, right? A lot of them are using synthetics for the rewards program. A lot of them are using Compound for the governance, whatever. So they're kind of just mixing and matching existing smart contracts, bringing them together. At some point, it's just going to be so easy where you can just click a couple contracts, execute it, submit it to the blockchain, and you're gold. So the idea was, step one, you pick a meme because that always comes first. Step two, you deploy your contract. Step three, you pre-mine. So it was all a joke, and I had a lot of little Easter eggs in there. I was just having fun with it. I thought a few people would laugh. I thought Anthony Sassano would get a kick out of it, so I tweeted it. Didn't expect much, but in just a few minutes, it just took off virally. A lot of people got a kick out of it. Both the people that are in DeFi and love DeFi and work on DeFi, and then the Bitcoiners who thought they were making fun of DeFi liked it because it's kind of self. Poking fun at ourselves a little bit, right? So it was really just an effort of commentary on the space, how we're just throwing things into production, testing in production. We're just we're not, maybe some of us have good intentions, but not everybody spends the time to get audits, etc. So it's really a commentary on that. But it was just funny how quickly it took off, and I'm thinking, well, I don't have a SoundCloud, but maybe I can capture some of this momentum. So I spun up a quick website. I titled this thing, I branded this thing the Degenerator, and I spun up degenerator.finance. In just a few minutes, I spun that up, and I just linked it to a Notion page, and I was just managing that. What am I going to do with all these people that are just super motivated and want to do something? I'm like, oh, a Telegram group. Of course, you got to start a Telegram group. It was still no concept of a token yet. It was just let's get a bunch of cool people that get the joke. Let's get them all in a Telegram group and see what happens. So we spun up a Telegram group, and literally within 30 minutes, it was just completely out of my control at this point, right? It was well past my joke. The company the community kind of rebranded. No, we're meme now. We're $meme, and we need to launch a token. So it started out as a joke, and then a lot of people thought it was serious. We're really going to build this product, and then someone said, no, we're much more than a product. We're a whole platform, right? And we're going to call ourselves meme. And there was an airdrop. It actually, in just this bizarre way, it started into this pump and dump territory, right? Where people wanted to buy this token, and then some people put it on Uniswap. Some people just dumped it as soon as they could. But there were a number of people that just held on to it because they bought into this vision of a meme token, of a DeFi Doge, Doge of tomorrow. So it was just silly. I had in the mock-up, I happened to brand it, or have to have one little image in the mock-up as a pineapple. So that took off as the brand. And the whole meme of the whole thing, it's actually trading now. Just within a couple hours, it was listed on CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap. The community is up to 3,200 people or something.
Wow.
At its peak, it hit 1.2 million in market cap. Right now, it's hovering around 900,000 in market cap. It was one of the most fun, if not the most fun projects I've ever been on. The most fun 24 hours I've had in DeFi. Yeah, there's a lot. It's a balance, right? Because I spend my day job saying, don't do this stuff. Don't take these.
Don't do that. Yeah.
And then, but we're having a lot of fun. The whales that dumped are out of there. Some big names in DeFi were holders, and then they dropped their bag. But there's anyways, it's lots of interesting lessons to be learned about memeing and communities and just getting the community engaged. And it's been a lot of fun. It's not my project. The CEO is Elon, and he's just
He's naming himself like the CEO, like there's an actual CEO.
Yeah, Elon Monk is the CEO, and the meme is, "Don't buy meme." That's
don't buy meme.
Don't buy meme.com.
What's funny is that night, it reminds me of the Yam. So the night of Yam, I was waiting up till midnight because I wanted to watch that vote thing happen, or not the vote, but like everybody was delegating their tokens so that one specific person could have the power to like edit the bug or whatever and fix it. And so when I went to bed soon after midnight, I was like, holy crap, hundreds of thousands of people, or thousands of people at least, got together with no way of communicating, like all through Twitter or random stuff, and they voted and they got it to work. And I was like so stoked, like at the end of the night, like, wow, like all these people got together, the crypto community came together. How rad is that? And I went to bed, and by the time I woke up, and I wake up really early because like my kids wake me up at like 6 in the morning, I look at my phone and the token had just gone down like 90-something% in value. And I went online, they're like, yeah, it turns out we couldn't fix the bug. and so it was kind of similar with your thing. That night, I shared it because I thought it was hilarious, and somebody kept going like, oh my God, is this a real thing? And I was like, no, it's clearly a joke. You know, all these Bitcoiners were like, can you believe how crazy DeFi is getting? I'm like, no, it's clearly a joke, guys, stop it. And then by the next morning, I wake up and there's a meme token now, and there's a pineapple, and Jordan is the king of meme. You know, it's like, what is going on here?
I'm just a humble servant. No,
it's crazy. So before we dive into the rest, Scott, you've joined us. Scott, give us the intro about yourself. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, quick bio. I thought I could join on mobile web. I couldn't, so I had to go to the office. We also created a site called DeFi Pulse with the team, and that's been really fun. And lately, I've been really interested in taking Yam emojis and putting on people's heads, and then publishing that on my Twitter account. And that's been most of my time the last couple of weeks.
Sounds about right. So you guys do DeFi Pulse?
Yes. We have a few sites like F Gas Station and Dex.ag. But yeah, we just kind of do fun stuff.
So I've been, because of all this craziness, I've been on ETH Gas Station about 18,000 times a day for the last 2 weeks. So
yeah, there's been some technical difficulties with like the crazy rushes and dependencies breaking, and it's been a bit of a headache, but we think it's been stable for a while now, for a week or so, which is a long time.
Well, yeah, I mean the gas in Ethereum has just been absolutely wild the last few weeks. So that's actually a good probably segue to go to Meta and talk about. Yeah. So you know, there's all this talk about ETH2 coming, and who knows, you know. Sorry, I looked over at the chat and somebody said, do pineapples give you gas? Yes, they do, apparently. Or they I don't know where I was going to go with that. Let's not go there. So there's ETH2 coming, there's Casper, and there's all these other protocols, but Casper I feel like is a little more on par with the Ethereum community, or there's a lot of back and forth there. And I would love to hear sort of, you know, where you think this is going, right? Like, because obviously Casper is could be a possible solution to this. ETH2 is a solution, or can be, but we don't know when it's coming, how it's coming, more specifically. So I'd love to hear your high level, you know, thoughts thoughts on all of this stuff. And
yeah. You know, I got strong opinions. I got strong opinions about what I think needs to happen. You know, for like DeFi is a great end user use case for blockchain. It's a perfect one. It's kind of, if we look fast forward in the future, we kind of see this wonderful future of decentralized finance and disintermediation, right? That's what blockchain is really great at. And if you can build a secure, performant blockchain to solve those problems, it opens up this world, right? And all of us that are kind of neck deep in blockchain, we see that future. But like, if you look at where we're at today, there's a lot of challenges in even building applications on blockchain technology, particularly public decentralized blockchain technology, for a variety of reasons, right? You know, my background is really in traditional, professional, large-scale enterprise software companies. I've been working in those for 20 years as a technology leader. And so when I looked at what it took to build contracts and maintain contracts and manage contracts on the blockchain, I was like, what? What is this? You know, and it became really obvious, really apparent, really early on that all software is governed. Like, I firmly believe that it's centrally governed, but all software is governed, right? And even today, in professional engineering shops, your software is governed. How you release your software is governed. How you upgrade it, what goes into your upgrades, that's all governed. And in a decentralized world, that is really, really important, right? You need to be able to govern your software as well. And we're not even talking about central governance. It's even more critical because it's decentralized governance, right? So as you said, it's a wonderful thing that everybody in the YAM protocol got together and were able to vote on this bug, but then in the end, they weren't able to fix the bug. And you have to ask yourself, how much confidence do they have in their ability to actually fix the bug to begin with? So what we're building, right, so we see the blockchain, my perspective is the blockchain broad adoption needs a couple of things, right? One, it needs a fantastic UX for the end user, and that's really going to be wallets, account recovery, making it really, really easy to interact with blockchain technology. The second thing it needs is really strong software governance. So contract authors need to be able to manage their on-chain code, right? And then the third thing it needs is scalability without sacrificing security. And so that's what we've set out to build, right? We've set out to really try to solve all three of those problems. It's non-trivial. It's a pretty big challenge, but yeah, I'm really excited about what we've got planned. Big elevator pitch there, but like, that's my perspective on where I see this technology needing to go.
Yeah, I mean, clearly we're seeing in the Ethereum world right now, we've seen it in the past, like it was sort of a joke back in the day when, you know, crypto kitties, you know, flooded the network and all that. But now there are, you know, there's a cross between memes and real use cases with literally hundreds of millions of dollars being staked on different projects, different things like that. And I think the fees, for me, you know, I wasn't even thinking about it at the time when it first got crazy, sort of last week when everything started going really nuts on the gas fees and things like that. I didn't really think about it too crazy because I was like, look, hey, this is, you know, magical internet money. And if it costs me $5 for a transaction or $10 for a transaction instead of 50 cents, like, who cares? This is craziness, and I'm learning, and it's, you know, it's not really ready for mainstream anyway. But then I went on Rarible and I tried to create a collection of NFTs. And it was like $200 or something like that in estimated gas fees to do it. And I could have just created the NFT without a collection. It would have cost me like $20 or something. But what it made me think about is like being a kid and trading baseball cards or trading comic books. And imagine like if I wanted to go to Jordan and be like, here's this basketball card, and he'd be like, here's this comic book. But before we can trade it, we each have to put in $1. We never would have traded it. Like, you know, it's so like all of a sudden I realized like, oh shit, you know, like for actual mainstream adoption, it can't happen this way.
Right.
And in the finance space, I feel like it's like a trade-off. Like, okay, we're all making, hopefully, if these things are built right, like Aave, you know, you earn a higher percentage of yields because we cut out all the fat and we cut out the middlemen, and we basically, you know, the banks aren't taking advantage of us. So if we have to pay an extra buck in a fee, like that's how I felt about it. But as you go closer to mainstream, so super long roundabout way of going to going to the thought of, do you think, do you guys obviously keep this in mind, but do you think there is a sort of exodus coming? Do you think that guys like Stani will move Aave off of Ethereum to other chains if the incentives are there?
We are definitely banking on it. We think that there's, if you build I don't believe in if they build it, they will come, right? You need very strong incentives that your customers, you got to build a great product, and then you have to incentivize your customers, potential customers, to move over to what it is you're building. But I think some things are like really table stakes, right? Like being able to test your smart contracts using a computer, right? Eventually, I believe all blockchain-based code or on-chain code is going to have some kind of an interface. So are you telling me because my contract is immutable, I can't safely ever change the user interface that interacts with it? Like, what's the risk if suddenly I change my iPhone app or Apple changes something in my mobile app and now it's like parsing my account hashes or my account strings completely differently and it's sending something to the smart contract that just doesn't work and my smart contract blows up, right? So how do you unit test your smart on-chain code, right? So we've actually built something in our ecosystem where you can unit test your smart contracts. From my perspective, it's massively important. It's also really important to have a decentralized governance process to say, these are the people that can upgrade this contract, and it's all on chain. So it's not like the governance processes for who's upgraded the smart contract is necessarily an off-chain governance process, which is fine, but it's actually transparent and you can see that these are the public keys that can sign an upgrade for this contract, right? And that's hugely important. Right now, a lot of these DeFi protocols have built governance tokens, which I think is fine. I think that's a perfectly reasonable way to do it. But what about the individuals that want to contribute to the project that don't buy governance tokens, right? How do they get tokens? Do you set up a bounty system? I mean, what we've built is a weighted key mechanism that allows you to basically earn more weight. Maybe you earn.
Oh, you're cutting out. Is Meta cutting out for others? Okay, so I think I know where Meta's going, and I kind of love this, and I get a couple of the people are saying, immutability is a feature, not a bug. But if change logs and things like that are on chain, and maybe governance voting based on certain weights, some DAOs are doing that, right? Like some people get reputation scores that are higher than other folks and stuff like that. So is there a way of kind of a combination of the two, where you can have the immutability, but if there are changes, it's sort of voted on by governance, it's on chain. Stani, I would love to hear from you, how you feel of sort of the rigidity. I think it would be interesting to hear how you guys feel about it, and how you feel, do you think your users would move to a different chain if they could get the best parts of Aave, but not pay the fees, for example? Do you think that would add to more adoption? Do you think, how do you think that would work?
Definitely, I think whole idea of DeFi is pretty much to kind of bring more efficiency and better capital usage and interoperability into the financial world. And I think kind of the system that the traditional banking system is built, it's very expensive, but the costs are borne by the financial institutions that are making these networks possible and basically safeguarding the networks. And that way they're taking the cost behalf of the user. What I see basically is that in DeFi, pretty much the users are bearing the cost of utilizing the network, but nothing stops different kinds of layers to actually pay the fees. But as we see now in Ethereum, for example, that because of all the traction that there has been with the yield farming and DeFi in general, the costs are pretty high in gas. And I'm pretty sure that if you ask like if you ask me or you ask anyone in the DeFi space, I think quite many will pay less. Let's say instead of $100 worth of gas, you would rather pay something that is $1 or not even that. And I think that's something that we always kind of like need to has as a goal, that basically we reduce this kind of like costs, because the another idea is that we're trying to a bit of democratize the finance and create new opportunities to people that could not access it in their current banking system. And that's pretty cool. For example, like in Aave, we have this so-called interest-bearing A tokens, and that's a pretty cool thing, because you could just basically deposit, let's say, DAI, you get in return a DAI that algorithmically grows in your balance, and that virtually is a USD nominated interest-bearing accounts, which is permissionless. And the thing is that you could buy a DAI and you don't need to deposit, for example, anywhere, any part of the world. But the problem then is that if it costs you more to buy it than actually to earn on the interest, is it actually worth it? And that's like very confusing to many people, as newcomers are entering into the space and like they hear so many good things about DeFi, and then they're kind of like blocked with the higher gas fees, and that becomes like kind of like a bad user experience. And I saw it happen a few years ago as well, when we were building smart contracts, which were inefficient and they were consuming a lot of gas, and we had the kind of like the same problem in our history and back in the days. So definitely, I think like interoperability and finding solutions that allow scalability is definitely the next thing. Like this is something we're looking at Aave very intensively, and almost like have reviewed all of the protocols that are available for us there. And I definitely believe that DeFi is, like, I'm a big Ethereum fan, and I started in Ethereum. I love it. I love the community, the developer community, and also the user-based community, and all the memes that there are, like even the craziest meme coins, but kind of like in the sense of community building perspective. But I also see that actually, like in the future, liquidity should move from one network to another, and basically depending on what kind of underlying network risk there is and scalability. And I just don't believe in the fact that if you have a financial transaction that you need to broadcast it to the whole network, because I mean, you need enough security to cover basically that transaction, but you might not need like to broadcast it to the whole networks. And then this is why solutions like what Casper is building is pretty interesting, and a bunch of other stuff that is going on. So definitely, I think like in terms of liquidity, if the incentives are aligned, we'll see a lot of movement. And the key trick, of course, is to create incentives that will work. And it's not always as easy as launching a meme or Wi-Fi or because I mean, it's just like it's not that easy always, at least from what I see.
Yeah, well, I got a ton of crap, a ton of crap when I got very excited when Ren launched, and I moved a small fraction of Bitcoin from, on Ren BTC to the Ethereum network. And I said, this was amazing. My only problem with this was Bitcoin, because Bitcoin took 10 times longer than any transactional part of Ethereum did. And I love Bitcoin. It's, I will always be a huge fan of Bitcoin, and I hold Bitcoin. But I was so disappointed. I kind of forgot how long it took to wait for six confirmations on the Bitcoin blockchain. And I just sat there and I was like, this is going to take like 45 minutes, like it was like, can you, in this day and age, it's wild. So going towards, Scott and Jordan, Scott, maybe because of DeFi Pulse and watching all of this stuff, I think you guys monitor how much is moved from, into Ren BTC or WBTC and some stuff like that, I think, if I remember correctly. But do you guys think that, because I imagine a future where there's a bridge, right, where I can have a DAI on Aave, and I go, oh crap, Aave created a version on CasperLabs or on Casper, or there's this other thing on Casper I want to test, and I envision a world where there's bridges like that from blockchain to blockchain, just like when you open up a web browser, there's multiple programming languages that are at play when you go onto Facebook, or we're using this. I'm sure if we looked at the code, there's JavaScript, there's CSS, there's HTML, whatever. They all seamlessly work together. I do imagine some interfaces where you can easily bridge from one to the other. So we're talking about mainstream adoption. Yes, yeah, Joseph just was messaging about this on our side chat. We're talking about mainstream adoption. Do you think that when you go from things like Ethereum, which we all obviously love and we're all obsessed with and we're all here for that reason, right? And then you go to something like Casper, where it might be more efficient in certain ways, or better in other ways, or just different groups of people, different products, right? Like, do you guys see a bridge creating? Because I feel like YAM and these kind of things kind of showcase how flexible and almost, I don't want to use this word, but I'm going to use this word, selfish people are. We all knew that YAM was insanely untrustworthy. Like, we had to click through a few disclaimers, including from the YAM team, right? Saying this is not tested, this has not been audited, but still hundreds of millions of dollars went through, right? So Scott, Jordan, what do you think? Is there going to be that bridge?
I mean, yes. I do trust the YAM team for what it's worth, and I trust them. I think they did an accurate job of relaying how much time was spent auditing the contracts, which was none. But yeah, I mean, the throughput on Ethereum is obviously filling up, and the only way to satisfy everyone sort of is by rationing transactions based on gas price. And I think what you're seeing is what was maybe memed as ETH killers are actually kind of turning into maybe something similar to, but different in many ways, to ETH shards, before there actually are shared security ETH shards. And I think you'll see kind of the Ethereum to other blockchain bridge kind of being a top priority for projects. And I think that'll be a good, a really cool way to kind of have scaling now. But I also think that sometimes when it feels when people say there are 64 ETH shards, that'll be so much more space. But if when things grow exponentially, 64x actually fills up pretty fast in time. And so I don't know, I guess I'm seeing there's so many different possible roadmaps for how the topology of blockchain space develops, and a lot of the parameters that will determine what topology dominates I don't think are even knowable yet. But one that's very plausible to me is kind of where you're already sort of seeing Bitcoin ETH bridges through some of the interoperability for only Bitcoin special purposes, but sort of where Ethereum is kind of maybe the highest security or kind of the settlement layer, but you're seeing a lot of high volume transactions on platforms that don't share security with Ethereum. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the traditional world, people build all sorts of security measures, but also scalability stuff, right? Like caching in web development and in other types of development. Jordan, being at ConsenSys, as far as I know, is purely ETH focused. What are they doing about scalability? Do you think they'll be involved in building bridges? Do you think that MetaMask will one day support more than just Ethereum? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, if you fork it, you can go support any network, right? There is some cross-chain projects going on. There's a big one that's trying to bridge ETH and Bitcoin and get atomic swaps in between Bitcoin and ETH. And there's a lot of interesting projects, but you're right. There is a very large focus on Ethereum in the network, and it's not in the company vision or the mission statement that this is just an Ethereum thing. I don't mean to speak for the entire company, but the way I understand it is there's still an open mind, and however we see Ethereum as biggest opportunity for like a Web3 decentralized world moving forward. So we're never say never, but and we'll keep an open mind. But right now, Ethereum's where it's at. I think at the end of the day, that's what everyone's here for. And I for one welcome like these quote unquote Ethereum killers or attempted killers, challengers, anyone that's experimenting with other technologies, other memes, whatever. Like we should, as an Ethereum community, those of us that are, we should welcome challengers, and we should welcome people trying to do better than us. Competition just helps everybody out. It strengthens the Ethereum ecosystem. If someone has a better idea, let's try it out, even if it's on a different chain. It just happens to be that Ethereum captured so much of the mind share. Network effect is huge. And it's just hard to stop given the projects that are building this space, the developers, the memes, the community, the investment. There's just so much. It's unstoppable. I don't think there's much of a chance for anything else to kind of supplant Ethereum right now.
For sure. I mean, and you kind of also mentioned you welcome that, right? That challenge, people coming to you with the killer Ethereum app, right? I want to kind of jump into the QA. And Pierre asks this: can there be DeFi on other blockchains? And I guess the question is obviously yes. But have you guys, like, what projects come to mind, and what blockchains come to mind when you think of DeFi outside of Ethereum? And feel free to jump in, Jordan. You can begin. We can take it to Stani.
Yeah, I'm a person that goes to DeFi Pulse, and they tell me that the Lightning Network is considered DeFi. So sure, that's everything else is Ethereum. I don't think about any other platform other than what's on there. That's all I know about DeFi and other chains, which is
yeah. Okay. Anybody want to add to that?
Yeah, actually, there's quite interesting stuff going on Cosmos. Like there's like, I was involved in one hackathon. I think it was under a year ago, or roughly a year ago, and I've seen a lot of things being built on Cosmos, and some of the projects still are being continued, and seeing new stuff there. And also I've seen, actually this is funny, I've seen stuff happening on Tron as well. I'm not sure how legit stuff they are, given the nature of the proof of stake. But I think like every chain has their own kind of like community and being built. And I think it's all about like how you attract also developers. And Ethereum has been doing that pretty well. When we started in the first days, I tried to figure out like how we could build a lending mechanism basically on top of Bitcoin. And the kind of like a challenge was the technicality that basically it didn't have smart contracts where you could actually create different kinds of programming and program money in various ways that you need. And now we see these days that we have quite a lot of chains that actually support smart contracts, and they have virtual machines. So like the kind of like the field is open. It's just kind of like where you find the community, that developer community where you feel nice to build things. So I'm expecting quite a lot. But for example, Lightning Network, I'm not sure. Like I know some people use it, but how much? Because like the problem of Lightning itself is because it's also like payments, Bitcoin payments, and Bitcoin is volatile, so it's kind of like quite challenging to use it as a payment still. But yeah, it's interesting to see like how things are building, and I think Near is a very interesting project as well. Stuff going to happen there as well. Aave will do something there. Same for Polkadot. I think there's just so many things. I think we internally even need like teams to just try to kind of like new spaces, because I truly believe that it's not a game of winner takes all. I just think there will be like different kinds of networks and their own like particular properties that attract liquidity or just usability.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm to shill CasperLabs, I'm definitely going to say CasperLabs is going after DeFi use cases, right? We are providing a lot of tools for DeFi protocols to not only, you know, create innovative new DeFi protocols using the extended features of the VM, but then also to be able to govern them on chain transparently, right? So definitely hoping that Casper will gain the adoption. And you know, you're absolutely correct about developer community, but we're focused really heavily on, you know, developer usability, basically building the tools that are future-proof, right? So if your DeFi protocol goes, if you discover a bug in your DeFi protocol, what can you do to address that bug in interest of your customers, right? And that's really like what we're focusing on, is how can you service your customers honestly and transparently on chain with a high degree of security, right? So definitely, we're definitely hoping to be able to become a real player in the DeFi space as well.
I have to say, like the security part is becoming like more and more important every day, and I've been actually like wondering like why we don't have any kind of like more focus on the network level. We're kind of like, we have always been focusing kind of like optimistically, basically building something that is very Turing complete, but it's also is very error prone, and just kind of like we could have Turing completeness, but we also could build different kinds of tools in the network level and supportive tools to actually avoid that human error, and that's something that's I think like increasingly, especially at Aave, it's like heavily increasingly thing that we are kind of trying to look at.
So do you think that security is actually, that's what's stifling better UX and UI, right? More adoption outside of the general crypto community?
I think it's a question of legitimacy, because we just need one big failure in DeFi, and it just needs to be one kind of like a, it could be a meme project that just attracts half of the liquidity in DeFi and just explodes, and then it basically tarnishes the whole space, and it's very difficult to get the reputation back. So the interesting thing about DeFi is that it works as the code is executed, but it also like it's very difficult to remove human trust always, or trust in brands, trust in what other people are saying. So if there will be a failure, and we have basically kind of like reputation that we have been building for years now, and we lose that trust, it's really, really difficult to get it back. And we can always kind of like argue that, well, we can always verify the contracts, but not all the users can actually do that. And also thinking not everyone should do that. And I would kind of like want to trust the developer who already checked the code and is reputable of doing that, and a few other developers, and then kind of like it's deemed to be safe enough to use. But it's kind of like very difficult to think of idea where I would personally have to read code and understand it, and then kind of like make my decision, because that's not capital efficient, even time wise. So definitely, I think like security is becoming more important, and if kind of like we as a space don't have a consensus that we need to build things securely, test properly, and basically use best practices, and even kind of like have some sort of mathematical and formal verifications on what we're building, because these protocols will hold at some point even trillions if we go that far. But we can't go that far if there's basically things exploding on the way. And don't get me wrong, like I really love innovation and experimentation, and that's super cool thing. It just basically there's few steps that could be done to improve security before we launch the experimentation accessible to tens of thousands of users who are piling up the liquidity there.
Yep. Yeah, I tend to agree completely. You know, our protocol, we started with math, right? And so We have the safety proofs, the liveness proofs, right? And we're grounded in that first and foremost in terms of our process for delivering for building the protocol. And the Casper protocol that we're building is not probabilistic, right? We actually have all the stake needs to vote on the transactions, right? So every validator has to participate fully in the network and slashing it 100%, right? It's a little scary when you talk to your validators and say, no, if you equivocate, you're slashed at 100%. They really don't like to hear that, but that's where the security in the network comes from, and it becomes exceptionally important. From my perspective, the only thing blockchain gives you is security and trust. If it doesn't give you that, you should just go use a database, right? It's a strong opinion. I think blockchain does a lot of things, but the first foremost thing it does is it gives you a trustless environment to execute transactions. And if you do anything to compromise that trust, you've kind of just cut it off at the knees. For DeFi, particularly locking trillions of dollars of value, you have to have that underlying trust in the protocol. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
And in Stani, you kind of touched upon this, and I kind of want to hear from Scott, right? From a UX UI perspective, right? In getting further mass adoption, you're seeing, I guess, new products, for example, like Furo Combo, I hope I'm not butchering that, which basically allows you to stack different lending protocols, different lending solutions right on top of each other, which they kind of gamify, right? And you guys kind of created a really beautiful interface on how to keep track. And Jordan said it himself, like, I rely on DeFi Pulse to understand, okay, what's happening in the DeFi space. So maybe you could tell us what are some of the more interesting UX, UI products, solutions that are being built that helps people better understand the space visually, like you guys done with DeFi Pulse?
Well, I'm a pretty big Zapper5 fan. It's essentially like a DeFi protocol, like a DeFi portfolio watcher. Okay. And they do a pretty good job because if you're really in the thick of the space, you have like random assets doing random things all over the place, and it's a little hard to keep track of that. But they do a really nice job of like making so you don't have to use a spreadsheet, which is pretty cool. There's also a very nice MIT licensed open source site called yieldfarming.info. It's built by Weeb McGee, and it kind of like it like basically lets you know like kind of what the different yield farming opportunities are. Sometimes you have to check on the GitHub because they won't actually be linked to on the main page. So you have to see what folders are out there. But it's a pretty good tool. Yeah, those are definitely my two go-tos right now that we didn't build.
Cool.
But yeah.
So following on to the next question, I want to give me just a second. Okay, so I guess I can kind of direct this towards everyone. Can you touch on Ethereum wrapped BTC for yield farming and any other type of innovative ways to diversify in the space to increase adoption? It's kind of like a grammatically fragmented question, but I guess it's just kind of asking like yield farming.
Yeah, I can answer that. So like yield farming, it sounds like it's like an interest rate thing, and it started with compounds. So that's like a little extra confusing. But really, if you think about sort of like how do people distribute tokens, kind of Satoshi had like no tokens and then block rewards as a way for people to initially get Bitcoin. And then Ethereum sort of like had a pre-sale, which is pretty successful, and basically you pay money and get things. Yield farming is like just if you do a thing, you're sort of like on the distribution rolls for like where the tokens will go. Most of the projects are choosing sort of block by block rewards. So if you do the thing for one block, you get a reward in the tokens pro rata for how much of that thing you do. And in that sense, it's sort of like this, it's kind of like a novel and new way to distribute tokens. And I think Wi-Fi was the sort of had a new twist on that, whereas Compound was using it as liquidity mining to get people to participate to make their lending markets more liquid. which Aave will also be kicking theirs off soon. It might be happening retroactively. No one knows. But Wi-Fi was the first one to just say, we're going to use this as purely a token distribution model because we don't want to sell any tokens. And like, we want to get everyone that like loves this stuff too to be part of the token distribution. And if Compound sort of like was like the first like major shot that set everything off, Wi-Fi was sort of like Compound squared, in that this idea that you can distribute all the tokens for a project in a week. And the distribution you get, like Compound's distribution was like very, amongst the portion of the tokens they distributed, it was very decentralized. Wi-Fi's distribution, I think, kind of like set a new standard in like getting a wide distribution. And, you know, we saw this string of like proceedingly more sketchy Wi-Fi clones, many ended in tears. Also, just side note, clones are bad. The first clone's like pretty bad, but the second, third, fourth clone really bad. Or so far that's been the case. And so we're seeing this new distribution, and we're sort of seeing emergent communities that really care. Maybe in a way that like some people might say hasn't really happened since the initial Bitcoin launch. And like no one really, I don't think anyone has much certainty on what the path will be for sort of these emergent open corporations or emergent open organizations. But at least the early results of like literally 2 or 3 weeks have been really like awesome and inspiring. And I think it's going to be like I don't know for sure anything that will happen, but it might be like a new way to organize a group of humans to do something. And I think that's sort of like, haha, it's a meme about yams, is like the joke that maybe makes people think it's fun and not be scared of it. Maybe they should be. But at the same time, there might be something bigger if like these emergent open corporations can actually accomplish real things, and you don't have to like go out and recruit and hire people and like pay them salaries for literally anything you want to do. Like, are there some things that humans can just do together because they're all on the same team? And how do you get them on the same team? And so far, it looks like memes are a good way to do that.
Well, it's kind of the whole point of all of this, right? We're sort of, you know, at least for me, it feels like the reason why I love these governance tokens and a lot of these things and some of the yield farming products in general are because it all kind of goes back to what banking and community style finance, community banking used to be about. It was called community banking because the community actually owned the bank. Like, we got to work together. And that was at the very beginning of this, what got me super excited about yams, because at first it was like, okay, this is kind of silly. They combined 2 cool projects, they made a product, and people are potentially making money here and whatever, and that was cool. But the fact that they rallied so many people, and this is not as centralized. I was explaining this to a traditional like VC type of investor literally this week, yesterday. And the reason why that's exciting is because none of these companies, like Yam, didn't have one person's email address. They didn't have, like, there was no stickiness. Nobody did KYC. So I couldn't just go, hey, Josef, shit's about to break, vote right now. Like, all they could do is post on Twitter and post on Reddit and post on wherever we hang out, Telegram chats and wherever. And they got thousands and thousands of people to delegate their tokens to this thing. And somebody was comparing it to like the national elections and how, like, as Americans, nobody participates in voting, but here's an example of like just thousands of people instantly coming on board to do something together. And that's insane. Like, that's a huge, powerful, that's probably more powerful than how many, the few billions of dollars that are staked in DeFi right now.
Yeah, I think in some senses, like, it's so new that like extrapolating too far with any confidence is pretty foolish. But like, if you're thinking about what is like the high upside percentiles of like the distribution on how things would go, I'm at least like entertaining the few percent possibility that like the scope of like this community bootstrapping or team of people working towards a common goal bootstrapping, like could have a bigger scope of like its vision than even DeFi, which is itself fairly large, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean it's huge. Adam, you wanted to jump into more questions before we jump into networking?
Yeah, one more. This one.
I'll just go all day.
Yeah. This one comes from Kristen. I think maybe Jordan, you can even tackle this one from a product perspective. Are there any user-friendly wallets in the pipeline? Needing a PhD to figure out how to these various platforms is a huge barrier to entry. MetaMask is supposed to be user-friendly. Sigh.
Is it?
I mean, I guess as opposed to attacking it as like, are there user-friendly wallets, right? What can wallets do to become more user-friendly? What are the major pain points that they're just missing out on, you think?
Major pain points. Yeah, I think you got to just start out with like, what's our goal here? Like MetaMask was really made for developers trying to launch decentralized products, right? And now they're slowly starting to become more and more user friendly. Personally, I think we have a ways to go to reach this mainstream adoption. Like we're talking years. Everything we've talked about so far does need a PhD or at least a couple years in DeFi and Ethereum, in crypto. I've been using MetaMask for 3 or 4 years now, and even today I had a transaction that was stuck and I couldn't get it unstuck and I couldn't speed it up and I couldn't cancel it, and I tried to send from my crypto to the same nonce, try to send 0 ETH, and I couldn't figure it out. I've been doing this for years and I couldn't get it to. It's still pending. How am I going to explain this to anyone else? We've got a long way to go. I think that's okay because we're seeing a lot of people lose their shirt, and it's only going to get worse in this bull run that kind of feels like it's about to happen. I think it's really dangerous. I'm telling people to stay away unless you absolutely know what you're doing. I'm having fun. My friends are having fun. We're throwing money and earning at yams. We're going to yieldfarming.info, and but a newbie needs to kind of discover it for themselves. I think right now. There are certain apps and wallets out there that make it a little bit easier. I'll echo Scott's comment. I really love zapper.fi as well. It kind of collects all the various pools that you're in, essentially all the assets in your wallet, everything that you're doing to deposit. But even that, that's nowhere near mainstream adoption, right? Even explaining what yield farming is or why someone would want to borrow crypto is a tough conversation, even with some of the more technical people in my life. So yeah, there are things that are going well. I really like a lot of some of the latest products, Argent, Dharma. They're doing a lot of cool, interesting things around wallets and not giving the user more than they need. MetaMask is doing a lot of interesting things. I really do want to kind of pull back the curtain and show you some of the stuff that we're working on. I say I'm participating here and there and giving comments here and there, but the team that's working on it, the MetaMask team is partnering with the Codify team, and we're kind of attacking some of these problems together. So big announcements in the coming weeks and months. So I'm excited to continue to push the envelope. I think the experimentation is great. It's funny because in normal startup life, right? You try to disrupt the incumbents, right? And you want to experiment. You want to be agile, and that's all you do in DeFi is just experiment and throw stuff. So I think in this world of experimentation, where someone can throw a smart contract in 30 minutes, like we did with the meme token. And have liquidity, have $1 million market cap, get listed in a snap of a finger. We need to do something to kind of rein in this, the enthusiasm. I love it. Let's keep it on track. Let's prevent users from losing their shirt, whether it's at the protocol level or the app level. User education is super important. Don't FOMO into something that you don't know what's going on. I put a little bit of money into the YAM protocol until I figured it out what's going on, until I talked to a couple of the founders. They seem I mean, I've chatted with them in the past, so I knew what was going on. And then I put a little bit more, right? So don't throw up your whole stack into one trending protocol. Yeah. But there's a lot of work we got to do. It's really exciting for the product builders and the early adopters. But I think we're going to be, years from now, we're still going to be saying, how do we have mainstream adoption in DeFi? It's just
I wouldn't be doing
that to bash on MetaMask. MetaMask is that was my first wallet, right? I think it's the easiest one to use in my opinion, right? So I think that was more tailored from how can we make it even simpler, right? How can we?
I've got to throw out there what we're building with return, right? We wouldn't be doing our job. So the fact that even the best wallets, and I think we all probably use MetaMask 90% plus of our transacting, right? Even the best wallets are complicated to most people that don't live in it like us. And so we're creating something called Return, and the idea behind it is essentially to completely obfuscate crypto away from everyone. So you don't have your own keys. We don't talk about keys. It's all being held by a trusted bank, and so it's kind of like it's halfway crypto, halfway in the real world. But the point of it is to kind of be a gateway drug or like a gateway to the space, right? I want people to go, and it's partnered with DMM, full disclosure, that's the first asset we're going to do. And people are going to deposit dollars, they're going to earn 6.25% interest, and they're going to withdraw dollars, and they're never going to see the token, they're never going to see anything other than just understanding that, like, why is this possible? Oh, because of DeFi, because of Mosin, the reason why it's different from other projects is that we're going to not have any of the crypto features, not allow anything other than depositing and withdrawing and making money. And the idea is essentially that you hold the token without holding the token, somebody else does, and that's not crypto. We understand that it's not crypto, but I think that in the world where every transaction costs over $1 or more, and that everybody needs to be technically savvy as a prerequisite to participating, that's not going to actually do what crypto wants to do either. We're not going to change the world by forcing everyone to know how to use computers when most of them don't have computers. We can't change the world when a transaction costs $5. So we're going to try to make something that's really simple that everyone can use, that hopefully intrigues the crap out of everyone in the world and makes them want to participate in these DeFi products, because obviously that's where we want everyone to go towards. We want all of these products, and I want everyone to use MetaMask, and I want everyone to participate in the decentralized world and completely, disintermediate everything. But it's not going to happen yet with what we have. And hopefully, Casper fixes that for a lot of people, and we can go direct that way. But in the meantime, I think that's where it's going. So I had to throw that plug out there because we're working on something there. But
we're working on stuff too at the protocol level too. I mean, I believe that the protocol should provide certain core features that enable dApp developers to build amazing products, right? And so we support meta transactions. So the payment is no longer your customer's problem. Right, as a dApp developer, you can specify how transactions are paid for. So if you want to represent your application purely in fiat and the customer pays a subscription, you can pay for all of your customers' transactions and the transactions run in their context, right? So we provide that capability so you can abstract that away completely for the user, right? We're also going to build in secure enclave support so you can actually use your iPhone as a biometric wallet. We're not going to build the biometric wallet, but we're going to definitely support the core, right? That protocol, the encryption, so that dApp developers can build wallets and iPhone applications where you store your keys or your account data in the secure enclave, and you can also recover those accounts, right? So you can do on-chain account recovery in an easy way if you lose your phone or lose your keys or something like that happens. So at the protocol level, we're just here to enable, right, developers to build what they need to build on top of the protocol. So totally with you. Like, that's where we see our place in terms of the user experience.
Awesome. I want to hit us with a quick flash round of Q&A before we break off into the networking session and we call it a day. I was hoping we can start with Jordan, go to Meta, and we'll end with Scott. Scott, what's his name? Stani told me that his internet is having issues, so that's why he sporadically jumped off the screen. But 1 to 2 things you're most excited about in the DeFi space, and 1 to 2 things that concern you the most, or that either concern you or that are not being talked about enough.
the things that are exciting and the things that are not being talked about. I don't know if there's things I'm concerned. Yeah, I hate to just keep bringing it back around to risk, especially as I walk the balance between like this, the work that I'm doing at ConsenSys and then the silly meme token that I'm advising. But it's, yeah, I'm just really nervous about this next bull run. Excited because we've been slogging through years and building. So I'm excited to see kind of, you know, some all the effort we've been doing kind of show off and bear some fruit here. But I'm just worried that a lot of people are going to dump money just because it went up yesterday or their friend pushed money in. So I'm just worried for people, and I know it's going to happen, and we all kind of know it's going to happen. But at the same time, I'm excited about certain projects that put the user first, whether that's at the app level or protocol level. I really like Aave. We didn't get a chance to talk too much about what they're doing in the Aavenomics, or a really interesting way to do it, where comp and other things, comp has since changed some things, but Aave is like, you're staking, but you're providing a backstop for the rest of the protocol. They're doing some really interesting things there. I probably talked way too long, but that's those are some things that I'm really excited about.
And anything that, so you said risk is the one thing that concerns you.
It's both. It concerns me, you know, on one side, and the other side, I'm excited about some of the innovation that's happening there, because it's a real problem that we need to solve. Cool. Yeah, I'm also just excited to see where this yield farming stuff goes. I know it's a meme now. I know there are some dangerous risks. I'm excited to see what the next YAM v2 is going to be. Excited where people take this. We're seeing what DeFi is all about, right? The composability. I don't mind that they grabbed this contract over here and jammed it into this contract over there. Personally, I don't mind that we're, you know, as a user, as an investor, a person in DeFi, I don't mind that we're testing in production. This is cool. I know the risks. At the same time, it's like trying to tell people, do not push your money in unless you know what's going on. So I'm trying to walk that line, and it's difficult right now.
Okay. Well, thank you. Meta?
Gosh, what's exciting to me is I'm excited for the future. You see the possibilities. We can envision the future, and I'm excited to see us continue walking down that path. Flip side, I love seeing the adoption, right? But the flip side, of course, sharing my thoughts with same thoughts as Jordan. I'm worried about the risk. I'm worried about the lack of, there's not enough transparency around for the average user, for the new user, that this protocol has been tested. They can't look at the code. They can't make an informed decision easily as to whether or not they should, put their money in a given protocol. It's hard enough even investing in the stock market, right? Like that's hard enough. And people have not bothered to invest in individual stocks, right? But like when you start going and looking at quote unquote investing in crypto or holding crypto assets, there's even another layer of complexity that they have to go through to try to understand what is it that I'm getting involved in here. And we have a lot of work to do. We have a long way to go. And I tend to agree that it's going to be years and years before we see mass adoption. And the whole government compliance thing, I mean, that is like a huge unknown, right? That we're still grappling with in this space. But in general, I'm bullish and really excited about what the future holds. I think crypto is here to stay. I think it's all here to stay. No question about it.
Cool. And Scott?
Well, I kind of mentioned earlier, but definitely sort of this new this new wave of open organizations and just seeing what they do is thing I'm most excited about. I think one thing that I think maybe you should get a little more attention is in 2017 it was sort of like par for the course for people to kind of shill before transfer tokens became transferable, or when there was low float right after a listing. And I think now since then we have like capital allocators that have amassed large thought leadership followings, and I really don't think it's appropriate for them to like just lay out the thesis, you know, either right before the listing or right after it, before their vesting is started. Or if they are going to do that, they really need to like take a step up in how much vesting they're doing. Because what I don't want to see is I don't want to see these like towering thought leaders over the rest of the community kind of doing that, leading the thoughts and then also leading the dumps. And I think that's not like a good situation for the community. And I really feel like we're past that, just as a group of humans. And yeah. But,
great.
The community kind of knows better, but that's where I think what Jordan was getting at is like we can all feel like we know and understand, but then, you know, selfish people get selfish or just don't understand and do crazy things and follow guys like McAfee and a bunch of idiots like that, right? So
I mean, I haven't.
Yeah.
I think I muted him a long time ago. Yeah, so I'm not aware of what he's been talking about, but you know,
I don't know if he's been talking lately either, to be honest. I just use him as an example of somebody I think you never want to actually follow, but some people somehow believe in him.
Yeah, I think he's supposed to get on TV or something.
Hey, Adam, before we do end, I just want to say one quick thing, because I actually on Twitter earlier today got a bunch of messages from people of somebody asking, Josef and my face were on the website of some random project as investors in the project, and we had never met these people. We don't know who these people are or whatever. So just at least on our end, and with any investors, and I'm sure with other people on this panel and anyone else, if you see something that seems too good to be true, if something seems like a scam or not, and you can't verify, like going to our website and seeing our name on it or doing something like that, reach out to the people. Don't be shy, because you know we found out about something today, and there's all these scams going around and these people trying to take advantage. So as much as you can trust people, you know, who you know, still do a little bit of your own research, please. Please, you know, share those scams when you see them and help the rest of the community out.
Help retweet what I just posted in the chat. That's basically Alon calling out the scammers. But that's all the time we have today, guys. Jordan, Scott, Meta, guys, thank you so much. Stani had to hop off last week. So if Stani, you're watching this, thank you. Next up, we have the really fun networking session. There's still about 138 of you online. We encourage everyone to stay, and the speakers as well, if you guys can stay, if it's not too late on your end. Basically, I'm going to end presentation mode, and we're all going to bridge off to these really colorful tables. And it's important for anyone that's new to blockchain and booze, have your cameras on, have your mics on, or else you're going to be very, very confused. All right. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.